Okay, so we focused our project on texting and language.
So Emma decided to look deeper into the research behind the kind of language used within online mediums, such as texting and social media. One article discusses the structure of text messages in 2007, and the second article dives into the linguistic patterns in text messages in 2020. We decided to look into this topic because we have seen how our language use differs when we are communicating through social media or texting. This idea originated from our main assignment number 3, where we decided to investigate and research how punctuation was used in text messaging, with the social variable of age being a hypothesized influencing factor. When deciding how to approach this project, we decided that we could go backwards from our highly specific study and widen our search. So source 1 is entitled Investigating and Modeling the Structure of Texting, and it covers the topic of texting language. And a quote from the article is, while communicating over texting media such as chats, emails, and short messages over mobile phones, users have a tendency to use a non-standard form of the language that disregards grammar, punctuation, and spelling rules. Source number 2 is entitled Text Messages, a Computer-Mediated Discourse Analysis. This study aims at sorting the dominant phonological, lexical, and grammatical features that mark texting as a peculiar asynchronous mode of computer-mediated communication. So this basically just covers linguistic patterns in text messaging.
Alright, so we decided to look at the methods from source 1. They use computational models to analyze the structure of text messages. And to translate texting language to standard language, they created a normalization technique derived from standard statistical machine models. And to combat the issue of spell checking, they added an error feature that would identify the probability of substitutions from a bank of words and their spelling mispairings. And it would go through a noisy channel, and I put a quote to define what the noisy channel is. Let S equal S1, S2. SL be a sentence in the standard form where SI represents the tokens, including words, punctuations, and abbreviations. When S is transmitted through the noisy channel, it is converted into T, T1, T2, TL, where T is the corresponding sentence in TL, and the TI is the translated form for the token SI. Thus, the program identifies the structure and components of texting language in contrast to standard language.
So the data from source 2 is it goes over the phonological features, being phonetic spelling, which are things like spelling tomorrow with the number 2 and then morrow, and then using like just the letter U for the word you. Consonantal writing, which is taking out the vowels in words, so people being spelled PPL and tomorrow being spelled TMRW, and then stress and intonation, so there's use of parenthetical brackets, and capital letters are used to draw attention to the importance of contents. Then there are the lexical features, which include lexical density, which there is a shorter mean word length and sentence length within texting language, lexical classes, shorthand techniques, and emoticons. They also cover the grammatical features, which include tense and aspect markers, adverbials, nominal forms, adjectives, pronouns, questions, passives, modals, and semimodals. And then I just have a little bit more in-depth description of what each of those may be. So the findings from the source 2 were that at the phonological level, the most common differences were in the phonetic substitution, sound replacement, capital letters, letter number homophones, and things like using the number 2 for all sorts or all kinds of the word to. Consonants replaced by others, so there was a common replacement for the TH with F, D, or V, and then the deletion of many vowels and the lower mean word and sentence length.
Okay, so we decided to list out the connections between the two articles. Both sources analyzed aspects of texting language and how it varies from standard language. There's also lots of substitution by replacing or removing letters and words. There's a lot of lexical things as well, specific words and their forms. For example, mate is translated to M with an 8 next to it. And numbers are also used a lot to express things, such as in today, the 2 is with the number 2. And words are shortened, and this is with the purpose of saving time typing or typing faster. So both the studies, we thought they were very thorough, and they examined lots of different words, phrases, and patterns. However, we felt like the data, especially from the first study, was a bit outdated or irrelevant. Since texting itself is rapidly evolving, as well as social media slang, it's tricky to find something that adds up with what's being used currently, which is kind of why we created our study. So for our study, we looked at punctuation use and age as the factors, such as the frequency of commas, question marks, periods, semicolons, colons, exclamation points. And we did a micro version of this study for our first research project in the class, so we just wanted to expand on it. For the participants and context, we aren't looking for a specific subgroup of the population since everybody has some form of exposure to social media. And anyone can participate in the study regardless of age, race, gender, religion, sexuality, and all a diverse group of participants is desired. And we want it to be in an authentic context, such as out in public spaces where participants are random. Our instrument is a self-report survey, so we used the questions: how often do you use punctuation, how often do you use commas, question marks, periods, exclamation points. And we thought to expand it a bit, we added the new question, what does punctuation signify in a text? And then we listed out the same forms of punctuation, just sort of to get a meaning of why. Our procedure, we were thinking we could publish the survey online, but we could also ask strangers in public to fill out the survey, really anywhere from shopping centers, restaurants, and parks. And we think that by going out in public, we'll get more results from the older population since they might not be able to find or use the online survey. Our anticipated findings are that younger people, specifically Gen Z, tend to use less punctuation, while older generations use appropriate standard English punctuation while texting. In our first study, we found that's what our results meant. We noticed, here's actually a quote from our first paper, we noticed that the main difference in data occurred in the 18 to 24-year-old age group in contrast to the other age groups. Overall, 18 to 24-year-olds used 40% less periods, 24.57% less commas, 14% less question marks, and 14.5% less exclamation points. And from this, we gather that 18 to 24-year-olds use less punctuation than 25-plus-year-olds, especially regarding periods and commas. However, since we had an unequal representation in the different demographics, we think that expanding our study will yield more inclusive results.
And here's our works cited. Thanks for listening.